Am I audible? Is it audible still or not? All right, now the voice is coming, right? So now finally, so I thought that the voice is audible. I didn't know that there was no audio, but it's okay. Uh, Sometimes it happens, the glitches happens. So am I audible now? Like, is it okay? All right. So let us discuss it again, right? That's okay. Sometimes it happens. So we basically are trying to understand that what is Python language, right? So we have to go from a place. See, we have to start from a very basic level. You have to understand this, right? Because we want to master it in a way that everyone who is just starting with Python can also understand that, and a person who is already known to Python language, I mean, who already knows Python language, can also get a lot out of this particular course. So we are going to go in this way, right? So let us start with it. So Python language basically is a programming language, and it is a higher level programming language, right? It simply means that it is something that is more closer to the user of the language. So suppose All right, so suppose here we are, right? So this is person 1, and this person 1 is writing a code, and this code is very close to English language, right? So suppose if they want something to be printed onto the screen, they simply write print and then hello, right? So it means that it is very simple to understand that okay, you want something to be printed onto the screen, just write print, right? So it is very closer to the English language, and that's why we also denote it as a higher level language, because it is something that is very far away from the system, right? So now the first question comes in, which is that why do we need a language at first place, right? Why are we learning Python or Java or C++ or any other language? So the reason is that you have a very powerful machines with you. You all have a very powerful machine with you, which is your operating system. Sorry, not operating system, which is your processor. So you all have a processor. Then you all have RAMs with you if you are working on a laptop, right? And then other resources are there, and we want to basically use all these resources, right? So when we want to do a very hard kind of a calculation, we are basically utilizing the power of our processor and RAM to give us very accurate result in no time, right? So what we want is that all of these things should be calculated, any of the calculation or something. So these tasks should be done for us, right? Tasks should be done for us, and that too, like very fastly, right? So we want our tasks to be done very fastly, and in a very precise manner we want them to be done, right? So because of this we use some programming language, because we want to automate things, right? So suppose we know that we have Excel files, right? Now these Excel files are there, and we want that suppose the marks of students are stored in these files, and we want to calculate the sum or average of all these marks. So if you'll go to do this manually, if you'll try to do all of these tasks manually, it will take a lot of time, and maybe it can happen that in some time you may not get even the right results, right? That can also happen because we are human, and we basically makes a lot of errors, right? So this can happen. Now if you will give this task to the program or to the application, to some software, then there are very less chances of having some error out of this particular application. So that's why we want to use languages, because with the help of these languages like Python, we automate the things, right? The first thing is that we automate the things, and with the help of automation we can do very difficult tasks within no time. So if some task was taking 2 hours before, so maybe it will take only 2 minutes now with the help of these programming languages. And what does these programming languages do? So these languages basically talk to our hardware devices, right? So in a way, these languages are helping us to talk to our hardware devices like processor and RAM and other things, right? So they're talking to these devices, and in order to talk to these devices, or in order to make them to do something, we have to learn this language first. It is same as that if some Englishman is there, right? And this Englishman, so suppose this is a Englishman, right? They know how to talk in English, right? So he's from United Kingdoms and he knows that how to manufacture a watch, suppose, right? And you want to basically make this person to work for you, right? He's a very good person and he's very skilled at his job, and he can make awesome watches for you people. Right now you want that this person should work for you. So you have to, if you want this person to work for you, then you have to communicate with this person, isn't it, guys? Say yes or no. If you want this person to make watches for you, shouldn't he be communicating, or you should be communicating with him that what kind of watches you want him to make for you? Come on, quickly write in the chat box if you think that I'm saying something right. That yes, if we want this person to work for us, the basic requirements are that we should be able to communicate with this person so that whatever we are thinking, we can. Yes, it is a coding session, of course, but it is the first session, hence we have to start from the very basics, right? And later on, we will try to understand each and every concept in depth. So, this communication part is very important in this language perspective, right? So, in the similar way, if you want your hardware system to do something for you, for example, if you want your hardware system, that is your processor, to do something for you, do some hard calculations for you, then it is very efficient. It is very much needed that you should be able to communicate with your processor. And how do you do that? You have to know the language in which they speak, and one of the language in which they can speak is Python, and that's why we are going to start with Python language. So are we good up till here, guys? Are we on the same page till here? This session is going to cover, like, this is going to be a like 20 to 25 days session in which we are going to cover complete Python language, right? From basics to object oriented programming to file handling. So we are going to cover every aspect of Python language, and you have to be here with me at 9 p.m. daily. Is it clear? Right? And later on you can go for other other courses as well. For example, here only we will learn about Power BI and machine learning, etc. things. So we are trying to understand Python first, because that is the basis for each and every technology that later on we are going to study about. Is it clear? All right, let us move on to the next point now. So now if I want to use Python, the simplest of the all ways would be to use a interpreter, right? And that would be by installing it, of course, interpreter and compiler. So we'll go in that depth later on. First of all, let us start with some online compiler, because obviously installation will take some time. So we will do that in the later section. But starting me, when we want to do the code, we should start with the simplest of the forms, which is Python online compiler. So I'm going to type here Python compiler because I want to start as soon as possible. So that's why I'm choosing this one. But later on, we will have our interpreter installed, our compiler installed onto our system, so that later on we can use our code as well, right? And one more thing is that all the code that we're doing in the session will be provided to you onto the GitHub link, right? So I will attach one GitHub repository link also, and you can go there and you can check all the codes that we are doing right here in the class. Is it clear? So let us start with a simple thing. So whenever you want to ask your computer to do something, you have to write the instructions. So suppose you're saying that, okay, print this particular text, which is hello world text, onto the output console. So what is this output console? Output console is basically, it can be a file, it can be a part of your monitor, it can be anything, right? Wherever you can display the outputs, it can be a screen, it can be any sort of a screen, right? So you have to tell your you have to write down this particular thing in your application, that what is going to be your output device where you want this particular thing to be printed. And by default, if you're not mentioning this, that what is your default output device, then this particular section will be considered as the output part of the application. And hence, whatever you are commanding here, like you're saying ki print hello world, then this will be printed over this particular part of the application, right? So as soon as we will run this, we are saying that print hello world, print this particular part, this particular text onto the output screen. So this is your standard output, and as soon as you'll run it, this will be printed over here. So this is a very simple and very first command that we have run, which is print hello world, right? So you have passed inside this print function. So this print is a function. We will understand about this also, that what are functions and everything. But this print function is basically is basically printing this text onto the output screen. That is what it is doing right now. Is it clear? Is it clear, guys? Up until here, everything is clear, right? That we have used a single statement, right? It is basically trying to print this part of the text onto the output screen. This is what is done right now, right? Now the next thing is, after printing this onto the output screen, the next thing would be to understand that what all things can be passed inside this print statement, right? So the next thing that we are writing is, we are again passing a text only, and this time this text is wrapped inside single quotes, right? This time we are not fixing it into the double quotes, rather we are passing single quote text. So basically Python says that if you want to pass your text in a single quote, that also is totally possible here. So this time I am writing hello world, but in single quotes, right? And as soon as I'll run it again, so you can see that hello world is again coming onto the output screen, right? Now what I want is that I want to print multiple lines within a single print statement. So I'm saying that print, and this is line 1, this is line 1, and this is line 2. So these are the two lines which we have in this particular print statement. Now what I want is that these should be printed in separate lines. But what is happening? These are printed in the single line itself. So now we want to change this, and how can we do this? So we are saying that you can use a special character which is slash n, and what it does is that it basically points your cursor, which is printing, whose task is to print these things onto the output screen. So we are saying that slash n simply will put this cursor to the next line. And as soon as you will run this now, what will happen? That till and it will be printed in the first line, but as soon as slash n will come, the cursor will take it to the next line, and the other part of the text will be printed in the next line. So this is how it is working, right? So this is how it is working when you are giving a slash n. Slash n simply means next line, right? So backward slash, and slash n simply means new line character it is, and its work is to basically print the text onto the next line, right? Now you are writing something like this, and you can write it in any language. So suppose I am saying that okay, this is right, this is printing the text in next line, right? So I have written complete description of slash n, and of course this is not something very codey. It means that it is not a code of Python, right? It is something that I have written here in order to explain myself that what is the work of slash n. So whenever you want to do some these kind of documentation na, what you have to do is you have to wrap this particular lines into this hash. It means that you have to start these kind of documentation or these kind of descriptions with a hash. Hash simply means that you're commenting these lines. So whatever you comment na, that is not that is not read as a code. So that is taken up as a normal text which has to be ignored by a compiler. So just for your own understanding, you are writing something of this sort, right? So that later on, if after 16, 18 days, you're visiting this code again, then you should be able to understand that what you're saying, right? So for documentation purpose, we use comments. So this is basically a single line comment. And in the similar way, maybe what will happen is that you will want to comment multiple lines, right? So at that time, so suppose this is some multi-line comment. So now what is happening is, again, this is also not a code. This is also for my own understanding that I'm writing this text in this file. But obviously, this should also be commented. Otherwise, the compiler will give us some error, right? If we will run this type of code, it will say that what are you trying to write? I'm not quite understanding it, right? Because obviously, this is not some code that you're writing. So when you write these kind of things, these kind of lines for your own for your own self, for you for describing something to yourself, so that afterwards whenever you will visit this code again, you should be able to understand this. So for this purpose you are writing this thing. So whenever this is the case, then you have to enclose it inside a multi-line comment which is given by triple single quotes, right? So this is how you will start your multi-line comment, and similarly you will write these triple single quotes again, and this is how you end the uh, end this multi-line comment. So these are for multi-line comments, and whenever you want to comment a single line, then you use hash. So up until here, are we clear, guys? Are we clear up until this point? Everyone, are we clear? Please, guys, respond well because we have a lot to learn. But when you respond, then I get to know that whether I'm going in the right direction or not. So that's why your response is very much appreciated in these kind of classes. So please tell me if you understand this portion well or not. Like, what is a single line comment? What is a multi-line comment? And why we use these comments? So is it clear to everyone? Come on, quickly tell me if it is clear. No, you cannot use double quotes for commenting purpose, right? You have to use single quote for commenting. Okay? If you're using this multi-line comment, then you have to use single quotes, right? Yes. If you're making up a string, right? This is not a string. This is a comment, right? So comments are different and strings are different. If you are making up a string, you are creating a string, you are declaring a string, then you can use double quotes also and single quote also, right? At that moment, it is fine. If you're using it specifically for multi-line comment, then single quotes has to be used, right? Other than this, okay, so I can see that it is clear to a few of you, and I hope that to other remaining people also it is clear. Apart from this, if we are using, suppose we want to now, all right, now comment part is all right, right, and we understand that what we are using it for, right? Now, if I'll run it, there will be no error at all, right? Like before, there was some error, but now there are no errors because we have commented these lines. So now the compiler don't even read these lines. It says that okay, it is not something for me to read. It is for the user of the program, right? So now, yes, in the string, in the text, you can use double quotes also and single quotes also, Ayush, right? So you can declare your string in this way. So either you can use double quotes or you can use single quote, Or there is one more way. If suppose you want to declare a multi-line string, that is, you don't want to use this slash and to tell your program or to tell your computer that you want this string to be printed in the next line. Rather, you want to declare it in a way that automatically this should happen, right? Automatically, this compiler should know that you are writing a multi-line string this time. So you can use triple double quotes also. So this is a multi-line string, right? And we can easily, write our string in multi-lines with the help of triple double quotes, right? With the help of triple double quotes, we can write these kind of strings as well. This is not possible if you're using this particular syntax. Now if you'll run it, then easily you can write these multi-line strings also. So multi-line comments are a different thing, but multi-line strings are also a thing in which slash n is automatically added, but it is not like visible to you, but it is added. So is it clear, everyone, that what is happening over here? Is it clear? Right, so this was all about your strings. And see, now I want to comment this part, because obviously now I don't want to like run it again and again. So I want to just comment this part, and I want to start with something new. So I can simply select this portion of the string, and then I'll control and then forward slash, and this is how all of these lines will be commented, right? So this is also something that I'll be doing quite often. Right, now let us move to the next part, which is about the variables, right? Now, obviously, when you are running a program, you're saying that you want to automate a process. So obviously, there is a lot of data that we need to store somewhere, right? There is a lot of data that is there which we need to store in our program. For example, it could be marks of a students, or it could be something else. For example, suppose you are dealing with some Excel file, and you are trying to store the marks or the numbers of a column, or doing the sum or average or some standard deviation you are calculating. So there could be n number of things that you want to store in a variable. So right now what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to create a variable, right? So variable is basically a place where you want to store data, and you want to basically give a name to this variable, this data part also. So we are saying that sum is the name, or uh, basically addition, right? Addition or result maybe, right? So result is the name of the variable which is storing the value 100, right? So result is the name of the variable which is storing 100. Now these things are called as variables. So result is a variable because the value which is value inside these variables can change, right? So that is why their name is variable, because the value which is inside these variables can change, right? So right now result is holding 100 value. Now if you try to print the value of this result variable, then you will notice that it is giving us the answer as 100. And in the next line, if you'll say that result should not hold 100, it should hold 200. And you will try to print it again. You'll say that, okay, now show me the value of result, and run again. So this time you can see that 200 is printed. Now if you want this value to be changed in the next line, then you can do that, right? And that is why the name variable has been given to them, because the values can vary, right? With time, the values vary. And you can see that the code is running line by line. So first of all, in line number 1, the value of result was 100, and that's why at line number 4, when you are trying to print the value of result, it is 100. Whereas when you go to line number 5 and you say that, okay, tell me the value of result, this time when you print the value, then it is 200. And in the next line, it is 300. So this is how it is working, right? So basically, the value of variables changes with time, right? And also it can hold different kind of values. So right now you can see that at line number 1 result was holding a number value. If you want, then you can change the value to some text, right, some string value. So this is changing, right? So we have now we are now storing inside result the same variable. We are now storing inside it a string value. Initially it was a storing a number, now it is a storing a string value. And in the later part, if you want, then you can store some sort of floating point value as well. And each time it will show the result whatever has been stored at that particular moment. So are we clear up until this point that what are variable and why we name them? We name them because we want to access them again and again in the program, right? Everyone, is it clear? Please kindly tell me quickly if it is clear or not. Right, so variables are clear, right? So now you can give some different names to your variables as well, right? So the only rule that you have to follow here is that you have to use alphanumeric characters, right? So it means that you can use 0 to 9 all the values in the numbers, then A to Z all the alphabets, small case and uppercase are treated differently. So if you have named some variable as capital RESULT, result equals to 100, and if you have named some other variable starting from small r and you have stored inside it 340, and now you want the result to be printed or the value of result to be printed, right? And you are using a small r. If you will try to run this program, then obviously 340 will be printed. Whereas if you will replace this small r with the capital case or capital letter, then 100 will be printed because this time it is considering a different variable. So whatever is the case of your variable will basically make basically will be very much considered, right, when you are trying to give some value to the variables, right? So it is very important that you should be aware of this fact that Python is totally case sensitive, right? Python is case sensitive. Case sensitive simply means that a small case and uppercase are treated differently. So this result at line number 3 and at line number 4 are different, right? So this is one of the things. Then we were discussing about that what are small cases and upper cases. So a small case, uppercase are treated differently, and obviously you can start the name of the variable from either an alphabet or you can use underscore also, right? So these are the two ways in which you can declare a variable. So suppose your name of the variable is first number, so first and then underscore number, something like this you can write, or otherwise you can also write it in this way, underscore first and then number, right? Or otherwise you can write it in a way that underscore then first and then num, right? And then you can store some other value into it, but you can never start a name of a variable with a number, right? You cannot write something like this, that 23 or first number, right? If you try to write something of this sort, na, it will give you error. It will say that you cannot start a name of a variable with a number, right? This is not valid. So if you will try to run this program this time, you will notice an error at line number 9. So from line number 5 to 7 everything is working perfectly fine, but at line number 9 there is a error. It is saying that invalid decimal literal. It means that you're trying to write some decimal literal, but it is not valid because afterwards you have used some sort of alphabets with it, right? So this is how it is not basically considered as a correct thing to do. So you have to always use alphabets or underscore first, and later on you can use the numbers inside your naming structure, right? When you're trying to name a variable. So I hope that we are clear up until this point also. Kindly respond in the chat box, guys. I'll be waiting for it. Are we clear up until this point? That how to name a variable, right? We can use alphabets, we can use digits also, but not at the start. We can use underscore also while we are naming the variables, right? Everyone, is it clear? All right. So till now, what doubts are you people having? So first of all, let us understand that what is going through you people, like what you people are feeling, like what is difficult for you at the moment. So kindly share with me so that we can acknowledge that particular part also, right? So are we good to like, are we getting everything till now? Is the teaching okay? Is it fast, slow, whatever you people feel? We have to be very interactive in the session so that it is beneficial for you all, right? So you can be very open about everything. So are you guys getting it? Is it so fast? Is it slow? Whatever you people are feeling, please. Oops, concepts will come, right? Let us first, start with the basics, complete the basics. That is the operators we will cover, then types of different types of data types that are there. Then of course conditional statements are there, loops are there, and then oops will start, right? We are slow. Is it so? All right, let us move to the next topic, which is about operators, right? So now and before operators, we have to start with one function which is type of a bit slow. Right. Actually, what we are trying to do is because you must have seen the name of the topic also that there we have written that it is for beginner to advanced. So we are going to cover all the topics, but obviously we cannot move very fast. So initially, some of you might feel that this is very slow because you are already, accustomed with these all logics from different languages or maybe from Python itself. You have studied this particular topic, right? But the point is that there are few of us who are not from the tech background, right? They might be from non-tech also and trying to understand the language for the first time. So we have to start slow, but we have to gradually increase this pace. So we'll do that, right? Don't worry about it. So, all right. So let us move to the next topic, which is type of operator. So suppose we have a variable which is called as num, and inside this num we are storing 45. And now we want to know that, okay, what is the type of this num, right? So the function that we are going to use in this particular case would be type function, right? So we are saying that print the type, right? Let us give some space here, and we're saying that tell me the type of num. So now num has a specific type. According to the number it is storing, the type will be given. So as soon as we'll run this, we'll notice that the class is int. It means that it is from the integer class. Integer are basically those numbers who does not have any sort of fractional part attached to them. For example, 45.5. Now here zero point 0.5 is a fractional part. So when we don't have a fractional part, that is called as an integer value. So right now it is saying that the number that you have stored is of type int, right? Later on, if you change the type to 45.45, suppose, and now you're saying that okay, print the value of type of print the type of num, that what is the type of num right now. So you'll see a different answer to this particular question, and this time it is float. That at line number 4 the type of num has changed and it has become float, right? In the next line now we are changing it to some string data type. So this is a text, so we are writing some text inside our variable num. So even though the name of the variable is num, but there is no restriction onto like what kind of data we want to store into it, right? And then again we are saying that okay, print the type of num, that at line number 6 what is the type of num. And this time if you'll run it, you'll see that now the type has changed to string. It means that now at line number 6 the type of num variable is string. It is holding some string value, that is text value. In the next line we want to store some sort of bool value, that is true false, right? True false are considered as bool value. And in the next line if I say that print the type of num, so at this particular moment the fourth thing you will see is bool. So this is also another kind of a data which you can store inside the variables. There are few more data types, right, which we will consider in the upcoming sessions. But as this is our starting session, so we want to like go up until this point only. That is int, float, string, and bool. So integer is a special type of data which store integer values which does not have any sort of fractional part attached to them. Float is that kind of data which has a fractional part attached. Then string kind of values are there, which are basically the text values. And then bool are there. Bool basically consider only two types, two values. One is true and another is false. So these are considered as bool values, right? So these are different types of data that you can store inside your variables, right? And now we will comment this part of the code because we understood this much very clearly, isn't it, guys? Do you understand that how we are storing different kind of data inside our variables? Everyone, right? I hope that everyone is clear up until this point, right? Let us move to the next part. So now maybe you'll want that you should be able to, do some sort of operation onto these variables. For example, maybe you want to compare two variables. So you can have as many variables in your program you want, right? So suppose this num1 is there in which we are storing 90, then num2 is there in which we are storing 30, then num3 is there in which we are storing 70, or so on, so on, so on, right? And then we are saying that we want to compare these numbers, right? Because right now it is visible, but maybe in future we want to take this the value of num1, num2, and num3 from the user. So if you want to do something of this sort, that is you want to take the values from the user, then you have to use a function called as input function. So let us see how we use it. So we say that there is a variable which is num, and we want to take input from the user. So you can use this particular symbol, which is input function, right? And then you want to print whatever number you have taken from the user. Now you will run it. So now it is waiting for us to enter some sort of number, right? And we will enter suppose 34, and as soon as we will enter, this 34 will be printed. So at line number 2 we are taking a input from the console, from the output screen, and then we are storing this input into the number variable. And after that in line number 4 we are printing the value of num onto the output screen again, right? Now there was a problem when we were running this particular part of code. That is, at initial point when we wanted to take some input, there was no, as such there was not a very good communication between the application and the user of the application. So we want to be we want it to be very user friendly, right? So you can also print some sort of message over here that what you want from the output screen. That will make your life easy to follow up, right? So we are saying that we can pass on a message here as well. So we are saying that enter a number, right? Enter a number. Now it is very clear to our user of the application that what we expect from him, right? And we will rerun this application now. So let us rerun it. So now it is saying that enter a number. So now we know that what it is expecting from us. So now we are entering 34, and then this 34 is printed again because in the next line we are trying to print it as well. And if you want to pass on a message while you are printing it, then that also you can do, that the number inside inside num is equals to something of this sort. So first of all, a message is coming, that is enter a number, and we are saying 12, and then another message is printed which is the number inside num is equals to 12. So this is how we are working on this particular part of the code. Is it clear, guys? Are we clear up until this point? Yes. All right, very nice. Now the next thing is operators, right? Now you have taken the number from the user. Now the next thing is you want to compare these numbers, whether these numbers are equal, whether one is greater, whether the other one is greater. So you want to make some sort of comparisons. Why you want to do that? Because later on you want to make a lot of different kinds of basically programs which will use these operations in a different way. But first thing is that we want to learn this thing, that how operators and everything works, right? So we are starting with comparison operator. So first thing is that what are comparison operators? Comparison operators are those Comparison operators are those which are used for comparing the values. So suppose we have num1 in which we are taking the input from the user. We are saying that enter number 1, right? So we are asking the user to enter number 1, and then we are taking or declaring another variable which is num2, and again we are taking the input from the user. We are saying enter number 2, right? So this is the way in which we are taking two inputs from the user. Now in the next line we are going to basically do some sort of comparison. So the kind of comparisons you can do is you can ask the user whether the numbers are equal, or you can ask the user whether they are not equal, they are less, they are greater, they are less than equals to, or greater than equal. So these are six operators uh, that can be used for comparison. So basically you are making a statement, right? You're saying that num1 is equals to num2. Now this can either be a true statement or a false statement, but this is something that you have made, right? You have made an statement that num1 is equals to num2. Now it totally depends on that what is the number 1 and number 2 values that has been entered by the user, right? So it totally depends on that. Now this can come out as a true value also and as a false value also. It is totally based on the fact that what is the actual value that has been entered into num1 and num2. So here we want to check out that whether the statement that we are making is a correct statement or false statement. So here we are saying is num1 equals to num2, the statement that we have made is giving us a true answer or a false answer. So let us run this. So now it is asking us for number 1. So we have entered 12. Then it is asking for number 2 and we have entered 14. And then the line number 3 that is working is num1 equals to num2. Whatever the result of this expression would be, right, will be printed using this print statement. And the answer is coming out as false. That is the statement that you have made. So you are saying that number and num2 are equal. But this statement is not right because one of the value is 12 and other value is 14. So they are obviously not equal and hence you're getting the final answer as false. Now let us rerun this and this time let us give some equal values. So 121 and 121. And this time the answer is coming out as true because obviously the statement that you have made, which is num1 is equals to num2 is absolutely correct, right? Because it is actually equal, right? So this is how equal works. So you basically are making or claiming something, and if that stands out to be true, then true will be given out as the output. So obviously at all the points, comparison operator will always give you either a true value or false value. So whatever comparison you are making, either that will be correct or not correct. Based on that, either true or false will be given back to you people. Is it clear, everyone? This is how equal works, है ना? In the same way, you can also work with not equal. So suppose we are working with not equal, then what we do is we are saying that num1 is not equals to num2. Now this is statement that you have made here, right? It can be either true or false. So based on the fact that what values you have entered inside num1 and num2, this result will either be true or false. So if suppose you will give unequal values, so first value is 12, then the second value is 14, then the final answer is coming out as true because obviously the first value is definitely not equals to the second value, right? So that's why the answer is coming out as true, that the statement that you have made is absolutely correct. But if you'll pass on the equal values, that is 12 and 12 in both the cases, or 121 and 121, then the answer is coming out as true, that number 1 is not equals to number 2. The answer should have been false. Let us enter it again. So first value is 12 and the second value is 14. The answer is coming out as true. This answer should not be true, by the way. Alright, so one more thing that we have to do here is why it is coming out as true. Let us clear this thing out also. So if you will check that what is the type of number 1 and what is the type of number 2, it will come out as string values because when you take input from the console, it is always a string. So the first task that you have to do is you have to convert this string into a number. So we are converting this number 1 into integer number 1, which was a string before. And similarly, we want to convert this number 2 also into integer value. And now we want to compare that whether or not these two values are equal or not. So number 1 is not equals to number 2, and now let us compare these values. So we are saying that the first number is 12 and the second number is 14, and we are saying number 1 is not equals to number 2, which is absolutely correct because the first number is 12, another number is 14. Now this time let us type equal values and this time false is coming, right? So number 1 is absolutely not equals to number 2 because the thing that we have made, the statement that we are making, that number 1 is not equals to number 2 is not correct because they are actually equal, right? So the reason that we have converted them into integer is because these comparison operators in a string will work in a different way, which we will understand in the next session. But for integer, they works in the very basic functionality they follow that we know already, right? So this is about it. This is not equal and equal operator. So is it clear? Are we good until this point? Are we good up until this point? Whatever we are trying to understand, are we good with that? Yes. All right. Then the next operator is smaller and greater. So now if you will make a statement such as that number 1 is less than number 2, right? So you are saying something. Now either it can be true or false, right? Again, the same thing. So you're saying that first number is 12 and other number is 23, and num is not defined, it is saying, because here you have to write num1 because the name of the variable is num1. So now we are saying that the first number is 12 and the second number is 15, and the answer is coming out as true because obviously number 1 is less than num2. So the statement that we have made is absolutely correct. Now again let us run it, and this time let us pass some bigger number to num1 and some smaller number to num2, and this time the answer is coming out as false because of the reason that num1 is not less than num2, right? In the similar way, you can use greater also. This time it is checking that num1 should be greater than num2. So let us run it. So for the first number we are entering 34, for the second number it is 12, and the answer is coming out as 12 because true, because 34 is greater than 12, which is absolutely correct. But if vice versa we will do, that is in the first number we will pass some smaller value, and in num2 we will pass some bigger value, then this time we will get the output as false because this statement that we have made, which was that number 1 is greater than num2, is absolutely false because in actual number 2 is greater than number 1. Right, so this is what we are doing in this particular case. Now, in the similar way, we can go for equal to operator as well, that is less than equals to. So this basically checks for two conditions. That is, num1 is either greater or it is equal to num2. So two conditions are checked. If either of the condition will be matched, then our output will come out as true. Right, so let us run it. So let us enter first value as 89 and second value as 89 again. So in this particular case, first number is 89 and the second number is 89. So obviously 89 is not greater but it is equal. So one part of the statement is correct. If either part of the statement is correct, then you will get the final output as true. So let us enter it and you can see that true is coming as output, right? Let us rerun it again, and this time let us enter first number as 89 and second number as 90. So the statement was that number 1 should be greater or equal to num2, but this statement is not followed with these numbers, this set of numbers, right? So as soon as I'll enter, we will get the final answer as false, right? So this is how greater than and less than equal to works. Is it clear, everyone? Are we clear with comparison operators? Are we clear with comparison operator, everyone? Alright. So now you people can discuss with me whatever problems you're having at the moment in whatever subject, right? And then let us see that how to proceed with the next session, right? Otherwise, we will keep the same pace in the next session also, right? So try to join every day. Every single session will be very important. Even though if you are some advanced learner, then also it will be a good revision for you people, right? So join each and every lecture because there is something new every day, and we will try to prepare for the interviews also by having some sort of questionnaire, and we'll have some question answer sessions, right? So there is a lot to come. You have to be on time, that is 9 p.m. So I'm expecting that tomorrow also you people are going to be on time and going to join this session for Python, and later on for different other tools as well, right? Will you remember the time, guys? So everyone will be available by tomorrow also at the same time. I'm expecting that, right? We will try to make the sessions more engaging and more fun, but this will require that you should come on time so that we can start the session sharp at 9, right? So I'm expecting that for sure. Will that happen, guys? All right. So I'm expecting that everyone will join on time. And this is it for today. So a very good day to everyone, and we will meet tomorrow at the same time. Bye bye, guys. Take care. And apart from this, if you have any sort of doubts, you can always leave a comment, and you will be provided, and your query will be answered ASAP.